I talk to a lot of pastors who want to build a leadership pipeline for their church. And generally, pastors are calling me for one of two reasons. Number one, their church is growing and they don't have enough leaders because of the growth. Or secondly, their church is not growing and they think if they build a leadership pipeline, that will somehow stimulate some growth in their church. So when I begin to engage in a church in the process of training them how to build an intentional leadership development strategy and build out their leadership pipeline, the outcome they're looking for is more leaders. But the outcome I'm going in with is not more leaders. I mean, obviously I want to see them have more leaders, but really the bottom line is I want to see them have more developers, because to me, at the core essence, leadership development is discipleship. It's all about getting our core leaders reproducing themselves. So that's the essence of the leadership pipeline for me. Recently, I was in LA. I'm working with a church and spending a year with them, helping them build out their leadership pipeline. And it was my second visit, and I opened up the day emphasizing the importance of looking at leadership development through the lens of discipleship. So I thought I'd share that. We captured it on video, so I thought I'd share it with you. Check it out. Hope you find it encouraging. Guys, as we kick off today, I want to remind you of the importance of this process. The last thing I want this to feel like is one more thing on your plate. And the last thing I want this to feel like is a program that you're building for your church. Because in my heart, that's not what it is. It's not what it is. This is discipleship, and this is discipleship at high levels. I had the opportunity, it's 2 years ago now, to meet Ralph Moore. And many of you may have never heard of Ralph Moore, but Ralph is very well known in church planting circles, sort of a legend. He's in his 70s. And I was at this meeting with a small group about this size. And Todd Wilson from Exponential was introducing Ralph to the group. And he said, Ralph, they said, Exponential has searched the country to find churches that are what Exponential calls level 5 churches. These are churches that are just multiplying at high degrees. And he said Ralph's church is probably, multiplying more than any other church we could find. And he said, in fact, the couple churches that Ralph has planted are responsible for planting over, he said, 2,313 churches. And everybody in the room just gasped. And it was so funny because Ralph, he's so quiet and humble and gentle. He went, 2,314. They were off by one. And so I got to know him, and I called him last week and was talking to him because I'm working on something new, and I wanted to get his input. And it was fascinating because I was asking him, Ralph, you've planted, your churches have planted, and you deposited this DNA in your church where it just replicates like rabbits, And how'd you do that? He said, discipleship. And so I started asking questions about discipleship. He said, Mac, it's just so easy. He said, what we did is he said, whether we were reading the book of Ephesians or whether we were reading Good to Great by Jim Collins, he said, I would just meet with 2 or 3 guys and just ask them 3 questions. What did God say to you through this? What are you going to do about it? And how can I help? He said, that's how we did it. We just started taking them through books of the Bible or taking them through leadership books. And we'd ask them, what did God say to you? What are you going to do about it? And how can I help? And he said, and the guys that we raised up to go plant churches, they use that same process. And he said, now there are people all over the country or all over the world using those simple 3 questions to produce disciples. And, it's so cool that something so simple could lead to a church planting movement. And it's a big reason why I do this whole thing, is to help put a framework together so that churches can have a framework and build some simplicity into it so that there can be a multiplication of leaders at every level in your church. Because we need to disciple people But then we also have to build capacity. Once we send people, we got to have leadership capacity. If we keep sending people, we got to have the leadership capacity to backfill and have a deep bench. And so that's what this process is designed to do.